Hi everybody, in this week's episode of Gaffer and Gear we're going to be looking at the Aputure Sidus Link App, which controls their lights over a secure Bluetooth mesh network. Alright, so let's get into using the phone app, and I'm using the Android version, and this is version 1. So in terms of its reliability, it does have a few little glitches in it, but nothing that's major, nothing that you can't get around with just a reset of the app. And I would say, to put that into perspective, I would say this is the second most reliable phone app that I've come across, and I'd say it's the most reliable version 1 that I've ever come across. All right, so currently I've got the app set up like you're a first-time user. Now, in order to get the lights working on the app, you have to create a scene. So you can do that by pressing plus up here or pressing the plus in the center of the box below. So now I've set up scene 1. So we enter that. And up in the top right hand corner you can see a green plus button. So you press that to get your lights, to search for your lights or to add lights. Now here it says that it gives you instructions that you have to reset your Bluetooth, so let's go through that now. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. If you're using an MC, just scroll through the menu until you find BT, which stands for Bluetooth. Depress the button and select yes. And if you're using something like a 300D Mark II, just press your menu button, scroll down until you find Bluetooth Reset, press Enter, and then select Yes. All right, now I've already reset the Bluetooth on these lights, and the fixtures have come up on the display as fixtures that I can use. So I select the fixtures that I want, and notice in there that the 300D Mark II is on the list. So the 300D Mark II does work in this app, and other lights that are coming out from Aputure will also work in this app. So I've got those set up. Now I've got those selected. Now I hit the setup button, and it links the fixtures together. So something to point out here, this is operating over Bluetooth, but these things have a mesh system. So if they send a signal out, they receive a signal, they send it out to other lights. So the more lights you've got working, the stronger the network. So they all communicate together. Basically at this stage now, I click OK, and the lights come up that I can use. Now, one thing I do like about this app is next to the fixtures that have come up is a button. So if you press that button, the light flashes. So what I like about this is you can figure out which light's which when you get to your homepage menu. So let's rename that light. So let's call that right side. So basically where the 3 dots are, basically press that and you can rename. So let's call that right. Okay, now let's have a look at the other MC. Of course, that's going to be the left one, but assuming we have more than 3 lights, let's have a look. Okay, so that's identified that light, so I know which one it is, and let's rename that to something I can use straight away. Let's call that left. And the 300D, we'll leave it named as it is. All right, so let's get into operating the lights individually. So basically you click the light on the list and up comes the controls. So let's start off with the 300D Mark II first. Now basically this light is monocolor, so it doesn't have that many options. Now up the top of the screen you've got your main option menu, so we've got white here and effects, that's all we've got. Underneath that we've got our intensity. So that's pretty straightforward. Now you've got some quick select buttons, quarter intensity, half intensity, and full intensity. So let's go back to quarter. And the only other option here is down the bottom, you can adjust your dimmer curves. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now, right down the bottom, you've got your input select. So we're currently in the slider mode, which is the slider here. Now, if we press the other button, we get a bigger surface area. So basically you can go up and down in that area there to adjust your intensity. So where that's really handy is if you've got bad blood pressure and you find you can't use a slider, that's me some days, you can use multiple fingers. Okay, so you can make a bigger surface area to get a response on the screen. So, and the other thing you can use is, say you've got gloves on, you could use your nose, okay, or you could use your elbow, you could even use your wrist, okay, so that's super handy. All right, so let's go back to slider. And the other thing we've got is effects. Now I'm going to talk about the effects a little bit in here. So at the moment we've got lightning selected. Let's hit play. Now you can select your frequency, your intensity, things like that. Now I'm just going to talk about, I mentioned earlier that there's some glitches in the software. Now one of the sort of, it's probably not even a glitch, but one of the things I've sort of come across is if you save an effect setting with the 300D in a scene with, say, the other lights, when you recall it, quite often the effect is paused. So the effect might not be playing, so you have to go into the light and hit the pause start button sometimes. So I don't know if I'd call that a glitch in the software, but it is something to be aware of. Okay, so that's the 300D, that's pretty boring. Let's go back to the menu and select our multicolored lights. Let's go the right light to start with. So up the top, you've got a quick selection menu. So you've got white modes, your gels, your colors, and effects. And under that, you've got sub-menus. Okay, so the sub-menus, you've got more options. So let's go to our white mode. So we've got our intensity. So pretty straightforward. And again, we've got quick selection buttons, quarter, half, and full. So let's get back down to low. Now the next slider down is our CCT. So we can adjust our color temperature. Okay, now we've also got quick selection buttons for that, and underneath those we've also got our input selector, whether you're using the sliders or the big surface area. All right, so let's go to gels. Now the gels menu is a little bit disappointing for me. It's basically just CTBs and CTOs, so it's basically changing your CCT point. Maybe in the future more gels will be there, maybe some colors hopefully, who knows. But one thing I'd suggest they need to put in straight away is plus minus green. So that's the one thing missing out of the white mode at the moment is plus minus green. But I'll get around to how to deal with that if you need plus minus green in a second. All right, now the next selection across is color mode. Now this is pretty cool. Let's select, I'll just go 9% brightness, so hopefully you can see the colors. Watch the response on this. Okay, how responsive is this? Now, I don't know if that's because of the, what's it called, the Sidus mesh network or whatever, but wow, that is super responsive. If you want to get an idea of how responsive this is, basically go to some of my other reviews where I'm reviewing lights that have a phone app, and I can literally spin the wheel around like that, and those lights don't even change for about 2 to 3 seconds. This is super impressive. Now in terms of input, you've got the circle mode that we're in, or down the bottom you can select sliders. Now the sliders enable you to more precisely input your values. So if you've got a hue angle you're trying to match up, it's a lot easier to do it in this mode. But I think the majority of the time I'll be using the circle mode because basically it's a stack of fun. All right, now the next color mode is color picker, and this is a heap of fun. Basically you use the video camera in the phone and select the color that you want. So basically any color that you want to grab, put in the center of the target. So this is my rather messy workshop today. It's a bit of a mess. Let's go blue. Okay, there we go, and pick up, bang. And there we go, now we've got blue selected. Now, once you've selected your color, you can tune it. Okay, so at the moment it could probably do with a bit more saturation. So the reason this probably doesn't look the same color, and it actually doesn't, this looks undersaturated. If we dimmed the lights in the room, turned all the white lights off, that would be the correct blue. But because it's getting mixed with the white light that's in the room at the moment, so that white light is hitting this and desaturating it, it looks to be the wrong color. So what you can do is tune your saturation. So that's the bottom slider. So let's just add more saturation to that, and now it's looking correct. Now let's say, for example, you're doing a shoot with a client and they say they want red. Okay, so let's select some red, and they go, well, we don't want this red, but it's pretty close to what we want. Well, in that case, you use the hue slider. Okay, so that basically changes your color angle a little bit. So we can go, we can change it 10 degrees in either direction. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, here's something you can do with the picker that not a lot of people realize, or people try it and do it wrong. Let's say we want to match our lights to the light that we've already got in a room. So we might be in a shopping center and they've got some green downlights and we want a color match to it. Okay, you can use the picker for that. But the big mistake a lot of people make is they point the picker at the light they want, they hit select, and it comes up wrong. Okay, so basically what happens is that's blowing out on the camera. so it desaturates completely. It overexposes and desaturates, so you don't get a correct color match. So the best way to color match to existing lights that you're trying to match to is to use a white piece of paper. Basically fill that piece of paper up with the light that you're trying to match to, and then take a reading off that piece of paper. And there you go. And that'll get you pretty close to an accurate match. Now, if that's not making a lot of sense to you, I'm going to give you an extreme example. Let's say I want to color pick this light, and so this one matches using the color picker. Now, if I point this directly at it, that light will blow out on my camera, and when I go pick up, I'll probably end up with a white light. So it actually didn't work, it didn't do anything. So the best way to get around that is, again, use your white piece of paper, fill your piece of paper up with the color, and there you go. Now, you might need to do a bit of a saturation adjustment, but you're pretty much there. Now, the last thing to talk about in terms of functionality of the individual lights is the effects mode. Now, the difference between running this on the mobile phone and running it manually off the light is you do have a few more options in effects mode. So let's fire up our fire effect. And the option that you have that's missing in manual mode is frequency. So I can adjust how often the effect happens, how rapidly it happens. I can't do that manually. Now, I'm not going to go through all the effects because that would take a stupidly long time. So the next one I'll show you is pulsing. So when you're operating this manually off the light controls, you can only control the intensity, how bright it pulses. But with the app, you've got a few other functions. So you can select the frequency, how fast it pulses. Now, you can select a CCT point, so you could have it 4,200 Kelvin, 3,450 Kelvin, for example. But what's really nice is you can select a HSI, so select a color. So let's go to HSI mode, select a color, basically move color wheel around. And once we've found the color we want, let's go say a blue. We press confirm up in the top corner, and now we have a flashing blue light. The last thing to cover in individual lights is the presets. So that's down the bottom. So basically that's where you can save settings for the individual lights. So let's pull up a color or something that we like. Let's go a blue, go to the presets. If we want to save it, we click save to presets down the bottom, and that has now been saved. Now, as you can see there, I've got other presets that I've saved. If I want to recall one of those, I just press the preset I want to recall and hit OK. And that now loads up into the light. Now let's go back to the preset menu and have a little bit of a look. If you click on the three dots next to the preset you want to recall, up comes the information about that preset. So you've got your intensity, hue and saturation. You can name the preset, so that's handy, and you can also delete it. So if you want to get rid of it, just click delete, confirm, and it's gone. Now let's go back to our scene menu homepage. That's where all the lights are listed. And you will notice in there is a selection called All Fixtures. So if you click on that, you can now operate all the fixtures as one. So that's pretty cool. Now, what if you want to operate individual fixtures? Let's say we want to get the two that are on the wall there and assign them together and get them to operate as a group. Well, that's no problem at all. We can do that. So let's go back to the scene homepage. Let's click on the green button up the top, the green plus button, and you've got new group. Okay, so let's select that. Now you can select the lights that you want in that group. So I'm going to select my left light and my right light and press setup, and that creates a group. And now that appears in the groups column. So it's down as group 1. Now we can rename that if we want. Let's call that wall, because we want to operate the lights that are on the wall. So let's go rename wall. Sorry, backspace that up. Okay, let's click on that. Let's get interesting. Let's go a color mode. And there we go. They're all operating, no problem at all. Okay, now let's have a look at the console page. So to get to the console page from your scene page, basically go to the bottom right-hand corner. There's a picture of a screen with sliders. Click on that, and that gets you into the console. Now, the beautiful thing with the console page is each light comes up and has its master intensity slider built into the icon. So if you want to do quick adjustments to your brightness levels, this page is awesome. So here I am adjusting the light on the left, and I can adjust the light on the right. Okay, so very, very good for quick adjustments. The other thing that's superb with this page is if you like everything you've got here, you can save it together as one scene. So you can do that in the bottom right hand corner by clicking on Quickshots. Okay, so you press that button down and now you press save and you've saved that scene. So you can rename this if you want, you can call it scene 1, whatever, but you can save all of the settings for your lights at the same time. All right, now, if you want to make adjustments to your lights, individual adjustments like say color, on the left-hand side of the slider, you've got little slider icons. Click on that, and that gets you into your settings. So now we can do changes to our lights. Okay, let's make a change to the other side now. So let's go back to console. Now, sometimes when you go back to console, a light turns off. Let's have a look, see if that happens. Okay, it didn't happen then. Okay, let's make an adjustment to our right light. So I click on the click into the settings of the right light. Let's make an adjustment on that. Okay, and go back to our console. Okay, let's say we want to save that. Well, okay, we can go Quickshots and we can save this. So now we've got 2 scenes saved, so we can toggle in between the 2. All right, now the other thing you've got down the bottom is you've got all fixtures. So you can adjust all fixtures simultaneously, the brightness. So that's pretty cool. And up the top, you've got a tungsten and daylight white balance preset. Now to operate this, let's say I want to do my left light. Basically, I start making adjustments on my left light and then click the button. So that does that. Now, as you saw there, I got my left and rights mixed up. I'm a bit dyslexic. So basically, that's the console mode. Very, very handy mode, and it's the mode I use most often. All right, so what if you borrow a light off somebody and you want to add it to the list? Well, no problem at all. Just go to the scene homepage where all the lights are listed. Go to the top right-hand corner and click the green plus button and click New Fixtures. So click on that and the phone starts scanning for new fixtures. So basically make sure that your Bluetooth has been reset on the light you're trying to add and it'll come up on the list and you can add it. All right, so we've covered almost everything in the app. So I'm going to take you back to the very first page that we started on, which was setting up a scene and installing all the lights into it. Now, here's my advice. With these scenes here, don't think of them as scenes, okay? Think of them as groups. So each one you set up is the group of lights you want to operate or the group of lights that you own. If you think of them as scenes, it will drive you absolutely mad and you will hate this app. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. So let's say we're thinking about these as scenes and we want to do another scene. So basically I click on a vacant box and set up, say, scene 2 here. So I click on that. Hold on. There we go. Now I click on the green plus button to add my fixtures. And we have to go through the whole process of adding fixtures again, Bluetooth resetting, all that process again, just to create another scene. So forget about it. That's way too hard. Okay, so let's get out of there. Now let's go back to scene 1. Now when I click on this, because I exited the scene, when I click on this, it'll have to do a quick network sweep and a reconnection. So scanning and configuring the available fixtures. There we go, back in. If you want to do a scene as a save, basically go into the console and save it as a quick shot. Okay, that's basically the quickest way to save scenes. Don't create a new scene. Okay, so only think of the scenes back on that home page as your group of lights, and you will absolutely love the app. The app becomes super reliable, super dependable, and super fast. So that's my advice for you with that. Now, in terms of problems with the app, the only real problem I've had is if I go to lunch, have all my lights turned off, and I come back, occasionally I can't reconnect. Now, when I say occasionally, I'm talking maybe one time in 8. Okay, so it's not even really a big issue, but occasionally I can't reconnect. So here's what I've found if that happens. So I did a bit of testing here in the workshop, basically spent a whole day trying to get the fault to happen again and then figuring out workarounds. So if that happens, if you can't connect, go back to your main scene page, basically the first page where all the scenes are listed, and click on your scene again. Now, usually when that happens, usually in about 20 seconds, you're back up. So that usually is as quick as that. Now, if that doesn't happen, if that doesn't work and you can't reconnect, basically shut your app down. So what I mean by shut your app down is go to your app selection page or the background running apps and slide the app off, okay? And then press on the app and reboot the app, Okay, so usually that works. Now, if that doesn't work, the light you're clicking on to try and connect to, basically turn that light on and off, and then try again. So in terms of how big an issue this is, when it occasionally happens, and it doesn't happen all that often, if I preempt that it's going to happen, if I'm worried that it's going to happen, basically I get on set 2 minutes before everybody else and then reconnect the app. So 2 minutes. 2 minutes is the maximum amount of time you're going to need to reconnect if it doesn't connect automatically. Problem solved in under 2 minutes. Now, I use this app all the time on set when I'm running the MCs, primarily in practical lamps. I depend on this app. I'm a working gaffer. It works very stably once you're in it. So I've got to say, second most reliable app I've come across, and I've got to say the best, first generation, first version app I've ever come across. Now, if you want to get some idea of what the app is truly capable of, when you download the app, and you can download it for free, go to Demo Scene up the top, let that load up, and up comes other fixtures that you might not have. In particular, have a look at the RGBW 300 panel. So that's a light they've got coming out soon. So you've got things like plus minus green capability in that thing. Okay, so basically this app is going to be a fantastic app with all of the future product they're going to come out with. Now, the next thing to point out is they're not finishing development here. They're working on an iPad app that'll be even better and even more powerful. All right, so I think I've covered the app. Basically, thank you for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode of Gaffer and Gear.